Hi everyone, I'm Eric.
And I'm Christopher.
And we're Grow For Me Gardening. Today we are touring a special guest's garden. Welcome to not our garden here in upstate New York, Zone 5B/6A. Today we are visiting a very special garden. We are visiting the garden of Greg and Kathy Green. And this is Greg Green.
Hello.
We've known Greg for a number of years because, like we've mentioned so many times before, when you have questions, go to your local garden center. And Greg is one of those people that worked at a local garden center near us that provided so much information to us and guided us so much on our gardening journey. He's even the guy that taught us how to prune our panicle hydrangeas. So Greg, we're so thrilled to be in your garden.
I'm thrilled too.
Yeah, so take us away. Tell us all about it.
Well, we moved here in 2010 and it was full of trees, no garden, in pretty bad shape. And in 2011, I started on the East Garden and it's evolved. I had no master plan, but probably halfway through I got into more formal gardens in the arts and craft period. And that's what you'll see when you walk through here. I always call it's called chaos within order. So, okay.
It's stunning.
I call this the West Garden because we're facing on the west side. Its centerpiece is a carved metal bowl, marble bowl out of Vermont. And it's surrounded by a mixture of hydrangeas and box balls and anemones at this time of year, lady's mantle earlier in the year. Basically, it's mostly green with some pinks and whites and purples in it. So I keep my colors pretty limited here.
Now this is Haas Hale. You said I'm a hydrangea fanatic.
Yes.
And so we don't have this one. So any reason why you chose it in particular? Or?
Well, it's great for pollinators because, as you know, on hydrangeas, these are the sterile florets, like a lot of these, and these are the fertile, which have gone by. So you get lots of hoverflies, bees, all kinds of small pollinating insects love this. Not as showy as the other like the Annabelle and stuff, but it's great for pollinators. And if the flowers can be up to 14 inches, mine don't get quite that big. Sometimes I don't prune it back until late in the fall because I like the old flowers on it.
Yeah.
But sometimes if you do, you'll get a reblooming on it.
That is beautiful.
And then this is vanilla strawberry, which doesn't get quite enough light, so it tends to flop a little bit. But what I found is I pruned this little tree really late, like in May. And you can see I didn't prune the bottom, but I pruned the top. And I'm going to do this with a lot of my floppy hydrangeas. I'm going to prune them real late next year, or second prune on them.
That's a good idea. We struggle with some floppy hydrangeas this year.
And I'm going to prune them like in early May. So that will give a later bloom, and they're not as floppy. This was not here. Our house was, in the backyard was just, it dropped off. There was no addition. It was full of trees. So we had the rest of the trees taken down when we had the addition put on. And then I added the terrace, which we'll check on later. But then I like a little bit of topography, and I got recycled stone here, and we stepped down into the back garden, which is where I spend most of my time. And over here is what I call the mixed border. It's shrubs, tropicals, tender perennials, annuals.
Wow.
And it comes on late in August, September. It's this height. I got different bananas, which come in for the winter. I got the red leaf Abyssinian banana, which comes in for the winter. Brugmansias that come in for the winter. And then I got a mixture of, perennials such as the Japanese brunette. This is pink elephant.
I can never remember that. This is called
Sanacigorbia.
Okay.
Pronouncing that wrong. I've got a number of those. And then in the winter I have, that's Hamalus intermedia pallida, the rich hazel from Asia, the great big vase-like. I've got 3 or 4 of those, so I get blooms in January, February, March, sometimes, up to 2 or 3 months of blooms, but without the leaves, so it's really pretty. And then as we step into the back, I've divided this up, not intentionally. My first thing is I put in this privet hedge, and if you live in the cold climate, privet makes the best hedge. Nothing bothers it. It is deciduous.
Okay.
And it needs pruning. I had just sheared that for the 3rd time this year.
Okay.
But it's fast growing, and I've never had any issues with it. The birds will nest in it. So it makes I've got different layers of it. So if somebody wants a quick growing hedge, they don't have to worry about privet's the way to go. The only thing is it is deciduous, so you'll have just branches in the winter.
You got your pineapple lily.
Yep, the Eucomus. Those are easy to save over the winter. I just let them die down dig them up before frost, end up with a bulb. You treat it kind of like a dahlia, put it in the basement.
We planted one. There's a newer variety from Proven Winners that's supposed to be hardy for us. So
Yeah.
it's in the garden. We'll see how it
Let's see how it does, yeah.
Yeah, and behind you is the one most eye-catching for us. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
This is our native ironweed. I don't know if it's a New York ironweed or what. Blooms in August into early September. It will self-sow, but not invasively, and it can get really tall. I do have a dwarf form over there, but it's not in bloom yet. It's very different.
I love that. That one's really pretty.
But anyway, this is just a garden that my main borders are all cleaned up for the winter, but I leave, like this bed is left for the winter, and I leave along the driveway for the insects and other small creatures to survive over the winter under the leaf litter and into the plants and that. This was originally a vegetable garden and a cut flower garden, but it is backed by an espalier pear. And now it's kind of I put different plants in there that I'm holding over. It's got lavender, basil, but it's kind of formal looking.
Should we go in?
Yeah. And again, I like to use different, items to kind of give that somewhat of a classical look, but my garden is by no way formal. Big on birds. I feed the birds.
Yes.
And the squirrels and the chipmunks come with it. But yeah, this is it's great, and I'm probably going to do some reworking this a little bit this winter or next spring. But
I love that you have the seedlings that you've let be.
Yep, this is Verbena barrenensis. This is Calendula. This I think a South African plant. I cannot think of the name of it. It has big daisy-like flowers, and I was surprised. I thought it wouldn't be hardy.
Yeah,
and it is hardy. I mean, it came through last winter, so very prickly.
Is that columbine or meadow rue?
This is columbine that has self-sown all over the place. And that's a pink form of the comfrey. Kind of a deep pink I actually got from my neighbor behind me. It's a little bit invasive, great for pollinators, but it blooms all summer. You just keep cutting it back now, it should be deadheaded. But once it starts blooming, if you deadhead it, it will keep blooming.
Do you make a comfrey tea out of it?
No.
To fertilize?
No.
Is that what Monty does?
Yeah. I know of it. He swears by it. And then to break it up here, again, I added another stone wall. I recycle a lot of stone, but I bought pallets of stone to build this because I wanted all decent stone.
How much stone? How many?
3 pallets right here.
Just in this first part of the wall?
Both pieces. I got 3 pallets.
Okay. Wow.
And I noticed this a lot in England. They'll just drop like box balls and box topiary. So I kind of to break up the linear line. And then I just display all my agapanthus, geraniums, different pots of, annuals on here for the summer. This is a cool plant. I didn't think it would be hardy. This is called Vitex Blue Diddley. Got it from
Blue Diddley.
From Bluestone.
Okay.
I'm trying to root some cuttings. If I get cuttings rooted, I'll give you some.
Thank you.
But it's a really cool because Vitex normally is a real big plant and not quite hardy. This is a dwarf form. So it's
so interesting.
It's done quite well, but I think it's also because of the milder winters we have here too. This is more of a spring, early summer border, but I've added the cannas just to give it some height. Again, it needs a little bit of working, but that's the, what's the red quince from Proven Winners, the red one in the spring?
Double take red?
Yep, that's double take red back there. That is...
is that Bobo?
Bobo, thank you. I got an excuse.
That's okay.
That's Bobo back there. And then I've mixed it in with, different, anemones and blue paradise phlox. And then this was a hydrangea it's a Japanese hydrangea that friends years ago gave to me. It has kind of a golden leaf in the spring.
That is remarkable.
Lace
it looks
cap.
like cherry explosion almost.
Yeah, it starts out kind of a whitish pink. I've got a number of them. So, but it's really pretty. As this is a blue, yellow, this is butterfly magnolia.
Oh, wow.
And it's
That's
starting,
great.
I love it here, but it's starting to shade out. So I've got to you know how it is, things get big and shady.
I love the Hakana Chloa behind. Is this green velvet?
No, that's either, I can't remember, Chicago something or North something. It's a very small leaf. Yeah, it was kind of a mix up back there, a mishmash. So one time I had a lot of Hakana Chloa left. And I just said, I want to more organized looking.
Yeah, just like these nice
So,
little clean
and then I
layer.
got boxwood cuttings with Japanese painted fern, and I just built a little fence with the pots, which again, I get my inspiration basically comes out of everything English. Magazines, English shows, English books. That's where I get 98% of my inspiration. This is a little water feature. It's just a metal little, like a tub sinks in there. And then I make the hurdles and waddles. I got to replace them, but you know, again, from England.
That is very English, those little waddles.
And then you got the Pollinatorias and the Brunaria. This is coral bark maple. It always gets a little bit of scorch on it, but you know, I think once you garden long enough, things don't bother you that much anymore.
Right.
You know.
Did you make your garden arch?
Yep. This is teasing Georgia.
All right.
David Austin roses.
Of course.
Of course. I've got Princess Anne. Princess Anne, is it?
The pink.
Yeah. Yeah. They bloomed really great early, but then it got so hot. I don't know if yours did the same thing.
Same.
Yeah.
And they just, except for this one, just bloomed again. But
Great foliage, very healthy.
I don't spray. You know, I feed both organic and non-organic. I do both. I mean,
a little bit.
But yeah, I don't use. The only thing in my thing is neem oil for the red lily beetles, and I don't think it really works anyway. I got to put a plug in for Select Seeds down in Connecticut. I don't know if you ever dealt with.
Yep,
Select
we've
Seeds.
done a couple with them.
The best tender perennials for a really good price.
Wow.
And I'll show you with my fuchsias. They come on like gangbusters.
And they ship them to you?
Yeah.
Oh,
They're only mail order, I don't think. And then I kept this simple. New gen boxwood with little line punch hydrangeas.
And this is just more of the
More
privet.
Some of these were cuttings and some I bought.
Cotoneaster?
Yeah, I got to protect this because the rabbits will eat it in the winter, but that's Tom Thumb Cotoneaster. I want to get it kind of shaped,
Yeah,
you know, to break it up here.
that'll be sweet. Then tell me about this. I mean, is it all annuals in here?
This is basically all annuals. The key with these pots is you got to keep them off the ground. I can leave soil in it, but you got to have it up. This is up on brick because I don't need the feet because it's not going to see it.
So even though it's a clay pot, it's not going to crack since it's not touching
Seabird and Rice,
the water.
very beautiful pots. They're the store's down in New Jersey, but they're Italian made. And then this is a Kufia from Select Seeds.
Oh, this is from seed.
Yeah.
It's funny. It looks a lot like
I forget
those new ones we've got, Eric.
Blue Horizon Ageratum. I love the taller Ageratum. There's a number of them out there.
This is the center of your pot.
Oh, that's peanut plant, Melianthus. Rub it and you'll get a burnt peanut butter smell. I think it's a South African
Oh my
plant.
goodness, it smells like peanut butter.
Oh wow, that is so
We're getting that. We're going to need one of these. That's so cool.
You got to go to Walker Farms on the other side of Vermont, north of Brattleboro.
Really?
They have the most amazing collection of tender stuff.
All right.
And that's, you know, I got over there finally. And then I have I grew these from seed. This is Nicotianum. It's called Watercolors from Select Seed. Whoops.
I've seen this seed. I actually almost picked this up. We have a white Nicotiana, the traditional.
Yeah, I've got one blooming itself. So Sylvestris,
Yes.
it usually gets real tall.
I planted it once 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And every year, one of them pops up. Every year, one of them pops up somewhere.
Didn't have it last year, but I got one over there this year.
Oh, this is so
Plumbago,
sweet.
which I say.
Plumbago. Look
Yep.
at this light blue. That is really pretty.
Yep. And then Rockin' Fuchsia and one of these.
Super Bell.
That
Yeah.
looks
Punch maybe?
Yeah, I love that color.
That's cool.
I replaced it. I had red in there, but they do get crowded out. You got to. People don't realize that sometimes, even in annual pots, you got to replace things periodically.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and then it's just. I got 4 green velvet box. I'm working on balls in the end.
And then are you bending the rebar yourself?
Yeah, I bend the rebar myself, so you can. I cut it, and then I watch Monty make these really nice hoops.
Yeah.
And I've got some nice hoops, but I had somebody make them for me. But I use them either as fencing, but then I took these down because this was getting pretty overgrown. So
then you can push your stuff
Yeah,
back.
so that works really well.
What a great idea.
So,
This Kufia and the Ageratum together is so
Isn't that-
striking.
yeah.
This
Might
might
be a good idea for the square.
that might have to go in our squares underneath the 2 trees in the backyard
Yeah.
for next year.
Everything gets leggy here because I've got trees to the east, trees to the south, and I love this big red oak to the west. It's great for birds and that.
Beautiful tree.
But this time of year, you could see how
You're shady.
So
Yeah,
everything
we're 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
everything starts to stretch a little bit.
Okay.
I don't have that big blanket. It's up on the terrace. And I found this catalpa, a native tree that gets absolutely huge. But I found it, made it into a standard. And I pruned it I just pruned it again about 3 times. You can see where it cut. So, and then under here, I've got the white anemone, more box, which I'm going to shape. And this is a lyrope called Silver Dragon that I picked up last year. And it's supposed to be zone 6, but
it's living.
It's, yeah.
Does this spread a lot like the like those grasses, or does it stay tame?
This is the straight lyrope over here.
Oh, so it does spread quite a bit.
Yes.
Wow.
This originally came from northern Vermont, from a nursery up there, and I brought it with me. And when I was down years ago at Wave Hill, I saw, you know, boxwood like this with the lyrope, and I said, I'm going to copy that.
How hard is the maintenance here? Like when you're working
Very
on this
easy. It kind of dies down in the spring a little bit, so I have to clean it up. You get all the dead out.
Right.
And you can see it does pop up if you look closely into the pavement. It is a spreader. I have it up in the terrace. I'll show you in a minute. But if you can control it, I mean, if you look, it comes out into the lawn. And you can see my lawn is organic, you know, as much as possible, which it shows.
But it's still, it looks wonderful. It doesn't look unkempt or anything.
Yeah. So, and then this is Lobelia syphilitica.
Is that the native?
The native. It's a lot easier than the red cardinal flower. Again, you can see.
But it's also beautiful.
And it comes out in white too, so it just self-sows in here. And it's great for pollinators. This is all recycled stone in here. And rebuilt this whole area.
This alocasia.
That's alocasia, yeah.
I love it.
And these are white. I love this type of begonia. I've got it in orange, red, and white. And it's so floriferous. But anyway, I've got all my fuchsias. This is an old laundry tub that I scrounged. And it's got the dwarf cypress and the water lettuce in it.
Oh, it's that I just realized water plants, right?
Yeah, water plants in it. I've sat here once this year. I never.
That means you're a gardener. That's a gardener, right?
All these seeding. This is Japanese Stewardia.
Gorgeous.
Pseudocamellia, Stewardia pseudocamellia. It's kind of funny. Last year it bloomed like crazy. This year it didn't. It's been blooming every other year. So.
Does it have that variegation in the bark?
Yep, it's just starting now. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. All right, come on in here. It looks like those trees in Bryant Park in New York City.
They're sycamores, I think. London plane trees. Probably what they are.
I just love it. It just looks like it's
it never looks bad. It looks good all year round.
Absolutely.
And it depends on the individual, but you can get orange or red fall foliage. It needs more sun to get that. I don't get the color back here. But and then it's in the tea family. You get camellia-like blooms on it in late June, July. And they don't last that long, but then they kind of, it looks like a snowfall. They're white with the yellow stamens. Absolutely gorgeous. It's probably, I think it's the best all-around tree. And I grew one in Queensbury when I used to live up there, 32 below zero, and didn't phase it.
We need a Stewardia.
Yes.
Apparently. That's a gorgeous tree.
My mother lived on a place called Skylands in New Jersey. It's now a botanical garden. It's on the northern Jersey near the New York border. And this spruce is Picea orientalis, a Japanese spruce, but this is called Skylands. And earlier in the year, it's very bright yellowish green on the tips. And then it kind of greens up over the winter. So I had to have it.
Yeah, this is one of the ones that we've had our eye on.
There's one called Firefly, but it's too small. It's a dwarf one. And I love this.
So how big was this when you planted it? And how long ago was that?
I'm going to say 8, 10 years ago.
Okay, so it's grown a lot.
Yeah, but not, I mean, eventually, the fortunate thing about me is at my age, it doesn't matter. But, so I can plant stuff I've got stuff that really shouldn't be planted where they are.
I always say who has the patience for proper plant spacing.
But anyway, I just love this tree.
That is cool. Have you pruned it at all?
No, maybe, no, not really. The rabbits will prune it sometimes in the winter on the blower winds. But
yeah.
They're my unpaid labor. This is winterberry.
Wow.
Which the birds, robins love. A couple winterberries here. These are my cold frames, which like I said, I keep different hardy stuff in here over the winter. There'll be glass windows put over, and I've got cuttings of yews, boxwood, different seedlings in here. And so I'll keep different things in here that needs to be cold, but you wintered over. And this is teasel. I do not recommend it. It's highly invasive. European plant. They use it for architecture.
Teasel?
Teasel. I don't remember the botanical name because in the early colonial days they used to do the wool, and they would make to do the wool. But it's very architectural. Has whitish flowers that the pollinators love, and it's a biennial, like a foxglove. Comes,
Okay.
you know, the seeds itself, and then there's one right there for next year.
All right.
But I dug it up along the road because it is, you know, I didn't, you know, I wouldn't, I don't think anybody can sell it. But if you got patience to weed everything out, it's a great architectural plant. Very spiny too.
That's so interesting.
And this is the shed that was here, and I've just turned it into a tool shed, potting shed. Dutchman's pipe, our native Dutchman's pipe vine, that will shoot up all over. That's quite a spreader too.
I don't know that one.
It's I don't know. It's hard to. It got to have a lot of room because I mean it will come up 15 feet away.
Oh, okay.
So you got to be careful where you put it. And in the winter, it's just a mass of dead stems.
Yeah.
So
beautiful foliage.
you go in the Adirondacks and Victorian houses, they'll have it on the porches.
Okay.
So it gives them shade in the summertime so they can sit. This is one of the original. This is Quickfire.
Quickfire.
Which has been replaced by Quickfire Fab. But
Mhm.
I love this because it goes so long.
They really are a nice hydrangea.
Yeah, they really are.
Well, let's go this way.
Again, this is another small room. Another nice pedestal. I can't remember where I got it. These are all box cuttings too. Probably green velvet, and eventually they'll tie in as a little hedge here.
How long does it take for a cutting to reach that size for you?
The cuttings I started about this small. I take them in November and I bring them in and do them, you know, in a warm room, and they'll root. Takes almost most of the winter to get roots on them. I would say 5, 6, at least 5 years.
All right.
There's Cornus moss, which is the European dogwood, Cornelian cherry, but it's actually dogwood. This is Cornelius officinalis. It's a certain variety. It's from Japan,
Yeah.
and it's got yellow flowers on, like in March. And they will, if there's other ones around, they will fruit with red fruit. This doesn't fruit. But people tend to want to take their trees down. I say no, limb them up.
Yeah, we like to limb ours
Limb
up
them
too.
up. So, and then it gives you a nice open, open airy spot. And I love the Japanese painted fern. I use it all over.
What is this looming above us up
That's
here?
just some unknown willow that I took a cutting from my brother's. And what I do is there's coppicin, which is when you cut to the ground, and there's pollarding, which you cut part way down. And I do those. I cut them down to about here. So in the spring, I'll cut them off and I'll use them to make the wattles and hurdles.
Okay.
But it's just probably a native willow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I would
so
love to have
cool.
an area where I could just grow rows of it and just harvest it.
Gold cone juniper.
Yep. I love this. And I'm not a juniper fan, but I love this.
I remember that.
That and gray owl I like.
Wow.
The Abyssinian banana, it's not a true banana, but we call it the red leaf banana. And that will be pulled out of the pot and before frost, cut down to one leaf. Some people take all the leaves off, drop it in a plastic pot, put it in the basement, and basically ignore it. A little bit of water now
Really?
and then. Same thing with the brugmansias. They get cut back, they turn to sticks, drop all their leaves. I put them in a corner, the darker, not a totally dark, and they just go dormant.
Yeah.
Fall's the worst time for me. I shouldn't say worst, but the hardest time for me because I have to bring so much in.
I believe it.
It's, it's just because I'd start early and earlier because I used to wait and say, oh, frost in a week. And now in September, I'm starting to break it down because we don't get frost until sometimes October, November here. There was nothing here. We had put the addition on probably 14 years ago, quite a long time ago. And then I built there's retaining walls in here and stepped up and I put in this terrace up here. Oh, this is Salvia amistad, which is, I know Monty uses this and swears by it, but
Beautiful.
But it's I had to actually mail order because it's hard to find. It's so common. And so I built this terrace after the addition was done, and I do put all my tender plants. These are boxwood and topiary that I grew that came up from seed somewhere. And again,
This was from seed.
yeah, it's self-sowed, and it kind of trained itself. And then my boxwood in pots will be taken out in October. Now bury them in the ground for the winter,
Okay.
and then the pots have to be stored away.
Now, what is this?
This is a
friend?
little verbena that a friend gave to me, and it self-sows in here. So
It's so
really, isn't that cool?
interesting.
I'd have to look it up. But see, the yarrow has self-sowed in here. Rudbeckia triloba has self-sowed in here. Weeds have self-sowed in here.
I love the mix of these sort of old plants, new plants, self-seeding plants.
Yeah. Well, that's again, it's the English in me where I have this kind of
Right.
like, as I say, chaos within order. I think it's getting more chaos as I get
Right.
older.
You build a structure and then you let it go.
Yeah.
And then what are the two?
Those are 2 standard crab apples.
Really?
Yep,
And
I got those as a standard, and I just after they're done blooming, I kind of shape them, by hand.
I love
My
that.
hedges, I use rechargeable rechargeable shears to do the hedges, but everything smaller is done with, especially the boxwood, is done with Japanese hand shears, much better. And I do all these with.
Well, your shapes are really good.
Yeah, I'm getting better.
doing it by hand.
This is a privet I did from.
Really?
Yep.
So this is the same plant.
Yep, as
That's
that
in those
over there,
hedges.
and I just made it into a standard, and it grows right here. Again, more. These are all Hicks yews. I use Hicks yews. That's the upright kind of a square form.
Mm-hmm.
They make beautiful hedges. If you don't have deer, if you have deer,
Right, of course.
you can't grow them. But if you don't have deer, you can grow them. And this is I believe, a native hornbeam that I actually found in some drainage ditch out in the country, and I trained them into like the beech hedges in England, or the
right, of
hornbeam
course.
hedges. So not quite as full, but it gives you a nice view down into
That is such a good picture right there.
How large is your lot?
1/3 1/3 acre. This, I like. Terracotta is my favorite for planting plants. I just love terracotta, but you got to bring them in for the winter. But these, I know, these are recycled pots, different tins. This is a coal shuttle. This is another little obscure bucket. So I put drainage holes in them, and then I do a lot of the coleus, and I love these hanging ivy type geraniums. You can even see the teasel seed itself. So,
This
anyway,
self-sowed itself from the back all the way up here?
well, I had a display of dried teasel in a bucket,
okay.
and made the mistake of carrying it around to the back.
Oh.
So I saw, but and I love this type of begonia too. But anyway, makes a nice, and it gets good afternoon sun here. So
Yeah.
I kept the front simple. I basically got box balls. That's tough stuff, which was spectacular. I love tough stuff.
I love tough stuff too.
Green mountain box in the back, and then painted fern, astilbes, other ferns, ipomedium, Japanese maple. That's Samaritan dogwood. Now it only blooms a little bit, but I love the variegation. But you can see it's reaching because this is west,
Okay.
so everything kind of reaches that way. So this is Calycanthus Hartledge wine.
Okay.
Doesn't have the fragrance like Aphrodite, but I don't think, sometimes they'll bloom late, but I don't see any.
We have Aphrodite, and
Is it fragrant?
the foliage I find to be more fragrant than the flower.
A nice yellow in the fall too. Again, here's some more of that Japanese hydrangea for a friend, which is kind of cool. I mean, I love the older flowers, but what it's done, I'll show over here. It's self-sown. I've got self-sown hydrangeas.
Really?
Annabelle, which I was good. I was smart this year. I corseted it, so it didn't flop in all that rain we had.
Nice.
I think it's just as pretty now. And then I've got Viburnum summer snowflake,
Oh.
which it's a rebloomer.
Mm-hmm.
Not as showy as the other viburnums, but it does rebloom.
Yeah.
But makes a great hedge. And this is really cool. A couple things here. This is Akuba japonica. It's a
Can you
Japanese
see us, Christopher?
a Japanese Akuba, which is more of a house plant up here, but it survives. Sometimes it will burn back a little
Really?
bit. Yes, isn't that cool?
That is cool. And then what's this?
That's Actaea, doll's eyes. Used to be Simicifuga. I think they went to Actaea. They've been switching the names around. Very poisonous. Baneberry. They call it
Very
doll's eyes
poisonous.
because it looks like a little doll's eye.
It's creepy.
Yes, yes.
Creepy.
And this is a self-sown hydrangea.
Wow.
Not worth marketing, but I love it. This is Persicaria painter's palette, which I don't think they can sell anymore
Okay.
because it self-sows, but but I've had it for years, and I do pull out the seedlings, but it is gorgeous.
Wow.
Gets a little red. You can see the flowers.
That is very interesting.
Yes. a dwarf birch. I think I'm not sure which, but there's a dwarf birch here, which I think is, it's going to be really cool when it gets older. I'll lift it up a little bit.
Are you going to keep it pruned pretty tight?
Yeah, well, I don't have to prune it. Yeah, here's a persicaria, right? You can see
okay.
it itself. So, but I don't know. It doesn't get that big.
All right.
And again, this is ipomediums, primulas, primroses in here, Virginia bluebells. So there's a lot of color in the spring here. It's a really colorful in the spring. And now it's basically foliage and texture, which I think is gorgeous.
Absolutely.
You know, again, another self-sown hydrangea, which is growing out of a rock.
That is bonkers.
Isn't that cool? And then what's really cool, one of my favorite, is the hart's tongue fern, a native of Europe. I can't remember where I got it. I don't see it anymore, but it's hart's tongue fern. And it's just, it doesn't even look like a fern. I do put a little bit of evergreen boughs over it so it doesn't burn as much.
Wow.
And so
yeah, because all of this pretty much dies back to the ground, right?
Yeah, that's why I got the birch in here. This is a Carolina silver bell, which I brought with me that somebody didn't want. I bought it for a job. Gets white flowers in the spring, native to down south. What's interesting though, what's really interesting about it, reaching for the light. So it's made this archway.
Yeah.
I do have to whack it back periodically. You can see where I don't show an arborist at, but you can see where I Komodo dragon hosta, which is really cool. I like the real big, the dwarf and the real big ones.
Yeah.
And this is autumn moon.
That's pretty.
And that Japanese maple, which is cool. I think the spring, it's when it first comes out, it's really. And then this is really old, the hellebore collection, which someday I really got to get after, but they've self-sown by the gazillions here.
Wow, that's a lot of hellebores.
Yes.
This is incredible, Greg.
Yeah. Watch your step here. This is our native closed or bottled gentian.
Really?
Yes. And what happens is the bees will force this open because, you know, normally you can't get in there and pollinate because it sets a ton of seed, but the bumblebee forces itself in there.
They know what's good.
Yep.
Oh, it just came out.
The bee?
The bee just came out of that one.
Yep.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
See if I can...
And it's you know.
He's trying to find his way in.
The gentians, a lot of them are alpine plants, and they're the most, you can't find a bluer plant, more vivid blue, except for the blue poppies in Asia. They're just gorgeous. But this is easy to grow. It's a woodland, you know.
There he goes.
Wow.
Another witch hazel. This is Arnold Promise, an older variety.
We have no hazels in our garden.
But it's hard to find. Yeah, sometimes Fatigans will get this in.
Yeah.
But a lot of times you have to go over to like Windy Hill and Great Barrington. That's where I've gotten some of mine from.
It's just spectacular, Greg. Thank you so much for joining us today. And Greg, thank you so much for having us in your garden.
It was my pleasure. I just enjoyed it.
It's spectacular.
It so much.
Where can we find you on social media?
Ipomedium8 is my name for Instagram.
All right.
Wonderful.
And we will put that on the screen for you, and we will share it on Instagram. So again, I'm Eric.
And I'm Christopher.
And we're Grow For Me Gardening.
Thanks for growing with us.